Hi, Julia.
Hi.
Oh, I'm so glad to be able to talk to you about the Rewire Your Wealth program.
I'm so excited to talk about it because I'm obsessed with it. I talk about it for days.
That's awesome. So I wanted you to share what brought you to wanting to be in this program and what you were struggling with before you started it.
I remember making the call like it was just yesterday. In my head, I was kind of, I'd log into my banking accounts or my credit card, get my credit card statements. And it just felt like even though I was paying what I thought was attention to what was going on and sort of where I was financially or where I wasn't financially, I was having a really hard time making any sort of like meaningful progress on my own. In my head was like, I just want somebody to help me organize and figure it out and come up with a plan to move forward. But I had no idea that like anything like this had existed. So I just kind of stumbled upon it. I Googled financial advisor in Vancouver. So you popped up and it said financial coach. I just called being like, what's this? And your like first intake call was really clear and helpful in sussing out what the program's like and why I might be a good fit for it.
Why were you struggling with money?
I have always worked, like I'm turning 32 this year and I have had a job since college. Even as like a professional person, I wasn't saving any money. I didn't know how to save any money. I was living paycheck to paycheck, just kind of whatever came in would use for whatever I needed. Not only like feeling kind of in this dark hole around like, what's my money doing? Why can't I save anything? And then like, how am I going to pay off debt? So I think those were my big struggles.
Why did you think it was hard for you to save anything?
I never practiced saving. And I think that's one of the things in going through the program with you is I was able to take some inventory of my life up until this point and kind of what my habits and relationship with money have been. I've just never prioritized saving. I never practiced saving. I never saw money in my savings account. So I was just kind of like, oh, that'll be a problem for next paycheck.
So when you got into Rewire Your Wealth, what was your experience at first when you started it?
At first, I think I just wanted to like launch into it and be like, I'm going to do it all. I'm going to get out of debt. I'm going to figure out my life and be amazing and be rich, and just like wanted to like bulldoze through it. And then I was quickly corrected that that's not how it works. So I had to kind of like take a step back and slow down a little bit.
So do you think it was worthwhile advice to slow down? Did it change how you were with things? Like, what did you learn by?
You said something to me once that was like, you still have debt. Like, you're still going to be living with debt. Like, that hasn't gone away. So how can we kind of like learn to live with it in a more like practiced or like organized way? It took me 10 years to get to this point, and it's not going to go away in the next 6 months. Like, that's unrealistic. And I have to, in order to rewire my brain and my behaviors and the way that I look at money, how did I get to this point? And like understanding that first before you do anything else.
What was it like being in the groups, the group calls and the group of the different women?
Yeah, the group calls are amazing. It feels like your family, that you're just kind of like working through stuff together and like showing up for each other, being there for each other, and like everyone's there for a reason and everyone's showing up for their own thing, and just to be able to like have this safe space. I loved it. I love that I think you do a really great job. So I just feel like you were so on top of what was needed and really good at reading the needs of the group to make sure that we got the most out of it.
Now, what about the Enriched Academy?
I really liked Enriched Academy. Is just like learning a new language. And once you kind of speak the language and know the terminology, it's really not that challenging. I think Enriched does a really good job breaking down the language of it in a very piece by piece, digestible kind of way, so that you don't feel stupid, like it doesn't feel too overwhelming. And then being able to do the module and then come back to the group and say, I didn't understand this. Like, can you help me understand it a little bit more?
So talk to me about how the hypnotherapy was helpful or not.
This is very valuable, and it's actually really helping me. Like, you need to just try to make it a little bit more of a consistent thing. It was from that point when I was able to make it more consistent that I'm like actually noticing huge changes. I noticed my confidence going up around money, and I think there is a hypno track around confidence and self-worth.
How was it paced for you? Were you able to take in the information? Was it too much within the 12 weeks?
And you have to kind of dedicate yourself for 12 weeks in order for it to work. I think that is very doable when you make the commitment. You have to be dedicated. There's a lot going on within it. So between like the coaching calls twice a week, moving through the modules, kind of keeping up with some of your like homework assignments, making sure that you're practicing some of the hypnotherapy. It's definitely like a chunk of your week that's kind of spent too, but they all work in conjunction with one another. So I think like you do a really good job at just kind of reminding people to check in, move through the program, stay on track, but understanding that sometimes it's hard to do it all at once.
What would you say if someone was considering doing this and the investment that is required to be a part of this?
I called you and you walked me through it. I was like, this is amazing. Sign me up. I want to do it. And then you were like, it's this amount of money. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do that. Like, I don't even have like a credit card that I can give you right now. And then after 2 weeks, I kind of kept checking in with my family about what I was learning. And they were like, we are so glad that you signed up for this.
Thank you for saying that, because I mean, I know that. You don't know it until you're on the other side.